Journey Mate, let's talk about why you feel tired right now, right before your breakthrough. We're going to look at some practical ways you can use nutrition and motion to help with this. I went deeper into what Adar is in the last video, but we're going to cover that just a little bit because you are facing a lot of spiritual resistance right now. And a byproduct of this opposition, is that the enemy would love for you to be worn out and discouraged, right? He would love for you to check out instead of staying in alignment and being positioned to walk into what God is advancing you into. In this season, it's very easy to feel fatigued in the natural because of what you're facing spiritually, and sometimes simply because of what you're putting in your body. So in this video, I'm going to give you some of my best practices for both myself and my clients when we are seeking to just stay aligned with the Lord and walk victoriously in what He has for us, okay? This is especially important when there is an increase of opposition, whether it's in your purpose, whether it's in your ministry, whether it's in the marketplace, okay? If you know a sister that's struggling with this, go ahead and share it with her. And if not, just like the video so that it will push it out on the algorithm, because there are many people in the faith that are having a hard time with this right now. All right. So throughout this video, what we are going to do is we're going to look at why different types of foods matter in regards to your strength and your energy, what you could practically begin to do in each particular food category. And I'm also going to share a 40% discount for one of the resources I use for nutrition for clients that don't have the time to figure out all of the inner makings because they got a lot going on, okay? So for context, you're probably praying and discerning things, and you feeling the weight of your assignment. You know that you are in the midst of a very strategic month. However, you're struggling nutritionally because you want to grab what's fastest. You might even find yourself skipping meals altogether or leaning on coffee for energy. And as a byproduct, what are you doing? You're feeling heavy, foggy, and you feel like all of a sudden the tasks that were relatively easy take more time or are more difficult, right? And all of this is because of your spiritual pressure, for sure. I'm not going to take away from that. But it's also because of some of the decisions you're making with your physical body. Because guess what? We're human. And although we are on a spiritual battlefield, this physical vessel has to carry that out. And so if you are underfueled or I can't even say my words, undernourished, and maybe even overstimulated, you're going to feel more tired than you actually are at times, if that makes sense. So I'm going to help you look at how to use nutrition for fuel strategically throughout the month of Adar so that you don't have to worry about dragging, because we can't afford to go through that right now. We are preparing for some of us the greatest move of God we've ever seen in our lives. Some of us the greatest move of God we have ever seen in our bloodline right now, right? So you need all of you that you could have to move into this thing. So for starters, let's build some simple fundamentals really quickly. Some things that get overlooked when it comes to nutrition often. And Journey Mates, forgive me if I'm repeating myself. I've tried to record this video about 3 times now. And if I didn't ask you to like it. If I didn't ask you to subscribe. If I didn't tell you that this is a part of a series and this is the last video in that series, the one before this was about the spiritual aspect of this month, going very deep into that with practical tips on how to overcome. And then the video before that was about some of that soul work that needs to be done and practical strategies you could use for your mental and emotional. And you should check it out. Then this is me saying that. Okay, so one of the things that folks commonly overlook is how impactful a women's vitamin can be when it comes to energy. Listen, this isn't magic, okay, but it does cover some of the basic nutrition gaps we typically have when we are dealing with the Western diet, and it's extremely easy to incorporate when you have a busy schedule. Another thing, and of course you should go to doctors about this and make sure that it aligns with what your provider would suggest for you, that's very helpful, is something like a vitamin D supplement. It improves with mood, it can help with energy, and it can help with overall resilience during this time, okay? Vitamin D especially important if you are in like a colder state like myself. I'm in Ohio, and it's easy to develop seasonal affective disorder, which is kind of like depression because we have less sunlight when it's cold outside. And lastly, if you are a coffee girly, you're gonna have to transition into something like ginger and turmeric shots for your energy. It helps with digestion and circulation. It helps with waking up without the jitters. It also helps with focus. And there are other benefits like reduced inflammation that I would go into, but it doesn't necessarily relate to this moment. So I'll keep moving. Now, let's do a quick recap. Your vitamins. Get a women's vitamins. If you're not taking one, make sure that it's appropriate with your clinician or your provider. But vitamin D3 will be very helpful. And lastly, transitioning out of that coffee into ginger shots, which might feel like a lifestyle change, but it's worth it because you carry glory, boogie. All right. These are simple shifts that support your body while you're handling the heaviness of your calling throughout the month of Adar. Now, let's get into protein because protein is like our stability anchor when it comes to nutrition. And when you're dealing with spiritual weightiness, it's very easy to fall into things like grazing, snacking, or under eating real meals. And when that happens, you drop in protein. So best practice, this is not customized. This is not me helping you lose weight at this particular moment. This is also not a prescription per se. But if you get about 30 grams of protein in with breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you're going to see great support from that. It will help you with stabilizing your blood sugar, reducing cravings. Also, it will support in maintaining muscle as well as your metabolism and increase in focus, honestly. So if you feel like you're crashing at that midday mark, you're stress snacking or comfort eating, think about increasing your protein to at least 30 grams per meal. All right. And some simple ways to do that. If we were thinking about breakfast, think about eggs, Greek yogurt, maybe cottage cheese or a high protein shake. If we're thinking about lunch, think about chicken or fish and beans, maybe even tofu if you're into that type of thing. If you're thinking about dinner, maybe a lean beef, lentils, or a combination of all of these mixed together. The overall point is that throughout the month of Adar, we want to increase in protein because that helps us stay steady throughout this fight. And we are in a fight we gonna win, but a fight. All right. So next, let's get into carbs. And I'm going to just go ahead and put this out here. They're not the enemy, Bookie. They're not the enemy. In seasons of high spiritual activity and emotional overload, your brain actually and your nervous system could use some glucose. It helps. Honestly, it helps. All right. So you got to let that diet culture go because we're talking about sustainable wellness and strategic wellness right here. Okay. So I encourage you, although you're eating carbs, to stick with the whole grains, things like brown rice, quinoa, old fashioned or steel cut oats are really good. If you have to have bread, which you could let go, but if you have to have bread and wraps, stick with the whole grain bread and wraps. And things like sweet potatoes baked or diced potatoes baked, no frying, are really, really good during this time. These whole carbs can help with steadying your energy. They can support with your thyroid and your hormones. It also can help you handle energy in a way, handle stress in a way where your energy is regulated and it doesn't crash. So when you pair the whole grains with the 30 grams of protein, you are creating pretty balanced meals that can sustain you throughout long days of serving, leading, parenting, creating, praying, whatever it is God got you doing, whatever you on your post doing, it'll help you with that. Okay. Now let's talk about what usually creeps in when we're tired: the sweets and the snacking. And I'm guilty right along with you. Some of this stuff is literally things that I've learned because I'm guilty right along with you. The answer throughout this month is not baking a whole bunch of cookies and eating them in one setting, or eating a big bag of chips, a family bag of chips in one setting. You hear me? The answer during this month is, in fact, moderation. For example, let's say you do want the cookies. Black and white thinking and cutting them out ain't gonna do it, because with all of the pressure you under, you gonna cave in and you gonna go get one of them great big old crumble cookies and eat all of that in one setting. And prayerfully you only get one, but you might get multiple because you told yourself no at a time when you were already going through it and being very disciplined. So that's kind of an unnecessary no. How about Instead of making the whole batch of cookies, if you're cooking it at home, make just enough for 1 to 2 servings, freeze the rest of the batch. Or if you do want to cook the whole batch, can you invite neighbors or friends or family over and eat that in the presence of loved ones, and then send them home with the leftovers for them to share, right? So it's not all you. Another thing you could do is upgrade the recipe. You could do things like increase fiber by adding chia seeds instead of eggs, or use better fats instead of butter. It's to each their own, but there are ways to make it better. Let's say you're not a sweet girly, you're more a chip girly. Well, this is a time where even the healthier whole grain chip alternatives I normally suggest might not be optimal for you. This might be a time where the cucumbers, I've shared this recipe before, but cucumbers soaked in apple cider vinegar and your favorite seasonings, or maybe cucumbers with a side of hummus, that might be better. Oven roasted potatoes, or sweet potatoes with seasonings might be best for you. And if you need the crunch, then let's do popcorn at home. Like, let's buy fresh kernels and olive oil and put it together at home, season it at home. That way you can regulate how much oil is being used, your portion sizes, the amount of salt, so on and so forth, and still get that crunchiness. And I find that popcorn compared to potato chips, though you will get a increase in sugar, it does not do the same thing to your blood sugar levels, okay? So these are just a couple things that you can do to help your energy be sustainable, help you with just like the mental resilience, and help you without getting to this place of perfectionism. You cannot afford to be in perfectionism land right now. You have to make this as easy as possible for yourself to not be sluggish, to not be puffy, to not be distracted and consumed with food. Hear me out. You cannot treat your body poorly all month, like doing things like skipping meals and living on sugar and caffeine, and expect it to give you this victorious, optimal energy. We got to be so for real. That's not how this works. We set ourselves up for success with intentionality, not just prayer. Yes, prayer is powerful. Fasting has its place. In the last video, I went into that. I'm a huge advocate for fasting. But so does feeding yourself well, while building, while contending, while obeying. Feeding yourself well when you're not fasting is important throughout the month of Adar. Your mind has to shift from is what I'm eating. Your mind has to shift from craving food for comfort into this. Is the way I'm eating helping me carry the weight of my calling, or is it making it heavier? I'm going to repeat that because you got to run that back. Is the way I'm eating helping me carry the weight of my calling, or is it actually making it heavier? Okay, because sometimes when we make these poor decisions, they feel really great in the moment, but in the end, they kind of hurt us. And you don't have to go through that anymore. If you want support with this and you don't want to have to think about how to orchestrate these meals, how to get the 30 grams of protein, or what that looks like in moderation, what that looks like in portioning, what that looks like in grocery shopping, I'm going to put my meal plan toolkit down below. It has over 100 plus recipes in it for breakfast, lunch, dinner, sauces, snacks, like all of the things you could think of. And it's 40% off if you use the QR code Adar, excuse me, Journey Mates. So you could grab that down below. Also check out the rest of the videos in this series. My dog keeps sneezing. Sweet baby. Yeah. And so what I want to leave you with is you cannot continue to underfuel your body or overextend your spirit and then be surprised when you're exhausted right before the breakthrough. We got to take responsibility. We have an opportunity to partner with God, both spiritually and practically, as we walk this thing out. Okay. So I hope this video has been, really this series has been helpful for you. Watch the rest of the videos. I'll suggest them at the end of it if you have not watched them already. But do whatever you got to do to nourish your body, your soul, which is your mind, will, and emotions, and the Holy Spirit within you, so that you can run your race and run it well. I love you, and I'll see you on the inside.